Hello there, and welcome back. Oh my gosh, we're almost at the end of our 31 days together, and I hope that you have received as much calm as I've been sending your way throughout these days. I truly had an intention of everything that I'm saying reaching your heart, reaching your mind, and allowing you to embrace the calm that I'm sending out to you. And today, my gosh, today we're talking about something that I think if you were to ask any client of mine over the past 20 plus years that I've been working in health and wellness, what's one of the things that Karen says often? And I would almost guarantee that about 90% of them, I've got a few Karenisms, as I call them, but I have a guess, a strong suspicion that many of them would say progress, not perfection. Progress, not perfection. You see, because I think that many of my clients, and it's really no surprise because I myself am a recovering perfectionist, right? Perfectionism is something that has been part of my life for many, many, many years, my whole life. And it's something that once you start to recognize and once you start to adapt um, your thinking around it and start to adopt the thought process, progress, not perfection, it becomes a kinder way of living, one that is less stressful, less overwhelming, less heavy. Like it takes the load off a lot in the way that you speak to yourself, in having super high expectations of yourself, all of these things. So before we kind of dive into the process of progress, right, not perfection, I wanted to kind of share some characteristics of perfectionism that you may not even realize. I never used to think that I was a perfectionist. I didn't until I realized some of these signs um, that share a perfectionist tendency. So I'm going to share a few of them with you to see if you kind of raise your hand or nod your head and say, "Oh, that's kind of like me." And I'm going to invite you to do it without judgment, right? With just observation, with curiosity. Like this is like a little delve into inside our brain and how we work and how we operate. And then from there, you get to choose, do you continue to operate in that way, or do you also start to adopt progress, not perfection, as something that might empower you in your life to start doing things a little bit differently? So you could be a perfectionist if you're kind of an all or nothing thinker. That means either you're all in on something or you're not. And by that, I mean, now that could mean that with healthy habits, either you're on track or you're off track, all or nothing, right? There's no middle ground, there's no moderation. Either you're on a diet or you're off a diet, no middle ground, no moderation. It could be that either you're going to redecorate the entire bedroom or you're not going to tackle anything, right? So if you see a whole project as a whole, and it's either you tackle the whole project or you do nothing. Because a small in our brain is telling you that a small step isn't enough. Well, that's not going to get me where I want to go. Right? This used to be me. This used to be me. If you tend to kind of be critical of yourself, do you judge yourself? Do you judge others? Be honest, right? Nobody's looking in on you here. Be honest. Do you tend to be critical? Do you feel like you get pulled towards your goals with a desire to achieve them? So you're very goal oriented. Or do you get pushed away by them, away from them, sorry, by the fear of not reaching them? You see how that's kind of tied to that all or nothing, right? Do you tend to have unrealistic standards for yourself and for others? That used to be me. Used to be me for sure. Do you tend to be laser focused on the results rather than celebrating each step? Right? Again, it's that all or nothing. It's like, well, if I don't get to that end result, then it's not good enough. Then I failed, essentially. When you start something and you don't reach the goal, does it make you feel depressed and that you're not good enough? That used to be me, for sure. Do you feel that anything less than perfection in your brain, perfection, often self-imposed perfection and standards, do you feel like anything less than that is a failure? Do you tend to procrastinate a lot? That's something that perfectionists often do. Do you tend to take constructive criticism from others defensively? Does it hurt your feelings? Does it make you defensive, like you want to fight back and explain why you are where you are or why something is this way? And perhaps you're super self-critical and suffer from low self-esteem. That used to be me. That used to be me. I mean, almost all of those are something that I used to really struggle with. And can I tell you, it was hard. Those were high standards. And I now know, after being in and out of therapy for years, often grief therapy and trauma therapy, but I know why I ended up being a perfectionist, right? And it came from me, and it might be for you too, because of high expectations from my parents, especially my mom. And I always felt like no matter how much I did or how hard I tried, it was never good enough. And when we feel like that, and I know this is something that so many people express to me before they join Thrivership School, my group coaching program. Karen, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to do it perfectly. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to show up for every class, or I'm afraid I'm going to fall behind. I'm afraid of failing. Well, first of all, Thrivership School, don't let the name put you off, because Thrivership School is the school with no homework, no grades, no detention. Okay, so there is no failing, there is no falling behind. Everybody in there is on their own journey, on their own path, at their own time frame. So there is no falling behind. But let me ask you, if you don't raise your hand and start, you're never going to get there. I can promise you that. Because when we change nothing in our life, then nothing in our results changes. And I know that so often it's hard to raise your hand and say, hey, I could use some support here. I could use a proven roadmap to help me get going in my life again. Because we feel like we might not be able to do it perfectly. And we have got many recovering perfectionists in Thrivership School who came in with those exact same thoughts. And I promise them, as I promise you, that if it's something that you're thinking about, you'll be right where you're supposed to be. And I'll be guiding you every step of the way. And I'll be reminding you very often that we talk about progress, not perfection. Right? Perfectionism is it's such a tough thing. It's so hard to put that on ourselves, to expect so much of ourselves. And especially, I see it so often after active treatment has ended and we're just fighting, pushing to get back to where we were. Because if we don't, then it's not good enough. We're not good enough. Going into some really old, deep wounds and stories and old beliefs about ourselves that are simply not true. Remember, a belief is simply a thought that we keep thinking. So when we start looking at these small wins, progress, right, we start to actually move forward instead of feeling like we're stuck. Right? If you ever experienced that, where you feel like you're just stuck in mud, you're just stuck, and you want something different so badly. You want to feel joy again. You want to feel excitement for your life again. And an ease and a flow and an energy that you're missing so much, but you just feel stuck. When we start taking aligned action, and I say aligned action, that's action towards our goals, which we get clear on in Thrivership School, then you start to celebrate every small step. Every small step, because every small step is a step towards where you're going. We celebrate that. In fact, we did this the other day in Thrivership School a couple of months ago, and we went around and I had everybody declare and claim what their celebration was going to be. To start recognizing each and every celebration, it doesn't matter how small, any step, we celebrate. And so some were like, whoa, and raising their arms. I always do like a little happy dance, and I have a button on my desk that has positive affirmations. Like I'll press that, and I had everybody just declare what their celebration was going to be. So I'm going to ask you to do that, right? That's actually going to be your calming action of the day. But, I think of, if I can share just a few stories of our women in Thrivership School. Like I think of Martha, who, when I first met her, said that she didn't have another fight in her. She was so exhausted and so drained and just tired of feeling like she was always fighting. Well, now, as I'm doing this series, 6 months after Martha joined Thrivership School, which is either 6 months or 12 months, you get to choose, she's flying high. Martha's excited about her life and what's going forward. She's starting her own website and writing ebooks and all of these things. She's excited. And when I asked her, Martha, what's possible for you now? And she said, Karen, absolutely anything and everything. And she wasn't just saying that, she knew it. So as somebody that has always been so hard on herself in life, Martha was really and will continue to celebrate progress, not perfection. Okay. I think of Jean. When I met Jean, she just retired. She'd been through breast cancer. She'd been through some family losses. They just moved to a new area out of her existing area. And she was feeling really stuck. And Jean said that she was worried that she wasn't going to show up for the calls. She was worried that she wasn't going to perfectly be able to do the calls. Jean's a retired teacher. But she joined anyway. She joined anyway. She said, Karen, I just knew there was something about you that had me saying yes to Thrive Issues. And she came. And do you know what Jean does now? If Jean's in the car, she will join the calls, our coaching calls, our group coaching calls. She will join for 20 minutes if she's been called in as a substitute teacher. Jean celebrates progress, not perfection. But she now knows that she can trust herself to show up for those calls because she knows how much that she gets out of them. And every time she gets a little golden nugget, if nothing else. I mean, I have stories that go on and on and on and on about people who, just like me, right, are learning to be resilient and grow and celebrate instead of being so hard on ourselves for the things that we're not doing, but to celebrate the things that we are doing every single day because they all matter the way that you matter. So I'm going to invite you, as your calming action of the day, to think about, what is your celebration going to be? Is it going to be a woo? Is it going to be a happy dance? Is it going to be shooting your arms up in the air and saying, yay, I did it? Or perhaps it's something a little more subdued. But I want you to really think about, what would you do to celebrate? It doesn't mean it's going to be in your comfort zone. I want you to really start to practice celebrating every single step forward. Even if you step back afterwards, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything about you. You're still getting up. You're still showing up, and you're still trying. That means that that is progress, not perfection. Let's ditch perfection. It doesn't serve us. It keeps us stuck in that mud up to our thighs. You get to choose. Okay. So that's your calming action for today, is to come up with your celebratory sign, dance, sound, whatever it might be. Have fun with it. And certainly involve other members of the family, right? Involve other members of the family so that it's a bigger celebration. And it could literally be, and this popped into my head, so I'm going to share it with you. Like, I remember a time when I was recovering after my surgeries, that unloading the dishwasher all in one go was just too much for me. And so I remember seeing my occupational therapist at the time, and she's like, well, Karen, unload the top and then have a rest and then go back and unload the bottom. Perfectionist, right? If I'm going to do the dishwasher, I'm going to do the whole dishwasher. And when she said that, it was like, whoa, I never even crossed my mind. And so what did I do? I started to unload the top, have a rest, come back 10 minutes later, or however long, it didn't matter, do the bottom. And I remember the day that I felt able, without pushing, to do the whole thing in one go. You can bet. I did a happy dance. Okay? I celebrated. That was a milestone for me. I remember celebrating putting in laundry. We have a thing in our family for anybody that goes through surgery, or my daughter when she gave birth to my grandson, like, we celebrate, and if this is TMI, I'm sorry, but we celebrate the first poop after surgery or going through where our body's gone through something. We celebrate that. Like, we'll announce it and we'll share it and we'll celebrate it. It's a big deal. And that's what we do. Progress, not perfection. Progress. It's kinder. Done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. Whichever one resonates with you. Doesn't mean done perfectly, just done. It's okay. Okay. So we'll end up today with our exercise, our heart hugging exercise. And I want you to think about, I invite you to think about being kinder to yourself, letting go of perfectionism and being kinder to yourself and saying, I wonder what it even feels like to just celebrate the little things. I hope that you can imagine that it makes you feel a whole lot better than tearing yourself down for not feeling good enough. Certainly did for me. Certainly does for all of my clients. It's so powerful. So as we end today, left hand over heart, right hand on top, gently giving your heart a hug. Okay. As you say to yourself, I'm going to invite you to share this with your 10-year-old self. When these perfectionist tendencies start, you are loved. You are safe. I've got you. And I love you. Thank you so much for joining me. And I can't wait to be back with you tomorrow for our final episode in this journey. Okay, I'll see you then. Bye for now.